Hey everybody, welcome to another show, Board Game Reviews. This is a YouTube channel dedicated to the tabletop gaming hobby, and this is a video series looking at the game of Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. Now, Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition is a 1 to 4 player engine building and action selection game that plays in about 90 minutes on average, depending on if you play it from 1 to 4 players. Now, this video is part of a series of videos looking at the game itself. In this video, we're going to do a quick overview of the game and tell you basically what the game is. But if you want to get a full review, see some sample gameplay, or learn how to play the game, or for any of my Patreon backers, you can actually see a full solo game. We'll explain how to play the solo rules and actually play through an entire solo game. But if you want to check out the other videos in this series, go ahead and click the link. This video is going to be dedicated just to a quick overview of exactly what the game is. Come on back after the break. In the game of Terraforming Mars, players represent corporations who are working competitively to try to terraform the planet of Mars. Now, this is a game where players are going to have asymmetric different corporations, and they're going to be dealt a random corporation at the start of the game. Every player gets 2 corporations. They're going to pick one that's going to be the corporation that's going to represent what they're doing. And these corporations play differently. Some corporations start with lots of money without a lot of special powers. Some corporations don't start with a lot of money, but they have lots of extra special benefits and extra powers they're going to add to the strategies and the tactics and the way you play the game. But the question is, how do you play Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition? Well, like I said, this is an engine building and an action selection game, because this is players are going to be building their engines, an engine of efficiency, trying to get resources, and they're going to do these resources to try to terraform the planet of Mars. The game is going to come to an end once the planet is completely terraformed, and whichever players manage to get the highest terraformer rating, plus any special bonus victory points managed to get from playing cards, will be the grand winner of the game. But that's the interesting thing about Terraforming Mars, because the game does not come to an end until the planet is completely terraformed. And players are going to terraform it by eventually revealing all the oceans, by raising the oxygen level all the way up, and also by raising the heat all the way up to a point where the planet is livable by human beings. Not a perfect environment, but at least well enough for players to be human beings to live on the planet. And again, like I said, not only is it engine building, but this is an action selection game. And what do I mean by an action selection game? Well, at the start of the game, every single player has basically 2 hands of cards. You have one hand of cards, which is basically your projects. Projects are what you're going to develop through your corporation, which is going to give your corporation extra powers. You'll get projects such as green cards, which allow you to get extra resources, such as heat production, extra money, the ability to start building forests on the planet Mars, and various different things along those lines. Or maybe you can get blue cards added to your corporation and give you extra actions, extra abilities, and extra things that you can do on your turn. Or maybe you can get red cards. These red cards are basically one-time use cards and give you extra resources, or maybe give you the ability to launch meteors and various different things down on the planet Mars to help you evolve it closer to a livable planet for human beings. But the interesting thing about this game is, like I said, is not only engine building, it's also an action selection game, because every player is also going to have a second hand of cards, and a hand of cards that are all identical among all the players. And these cards are going to allow players to take actions. But the unique thing about this game is that players are going to select the action they're going to perform on their turn, and all the players are going to do this simultaneously. And whatever actions are selected by all our players are the only actions that are going to occur this turn. So players pick different actions, then we may have multiple different actions that may occur this turn. But if multiple players pick the same action, that means that action is all that's going to be done this turn, and various different actions will not be performed this turn. Once all of our players have selected what actions they are going to play this turn, all the players are going to reveal all their cards for their actions, and then we're going to resolve these action phases in order from 1 to 5. Again, here's the big trick about the game though. If a specific phase of this round is not selected, nobody gets to do that action. If multiple players pick that phase, then those are the players who get to take that action as a bonus, while everybody at the table gets to take that action. So what exactly does that mean? So in this example, we see that this player, the blue player, has picked action number 2, the red player has picked action number 5, and the green and yellow player both picked action number 4, which is production. So that means that all of our players are going to do the construction action. Since the blue player played construction, they get one little extra bonus, which is for them and them only, and that's listed at the bottom of the action card. Then we're going to skip action number 3, because nobody played action number 3. We're going to go to action number 4, which is production. All the players at the table get to do the produce action, but these 2 players, since they actually play the production card, are going to get the special extra bonus, which is listed at the bottom of the card. And then since we have a 5 fifth phase action selected. All the players also going to do the research action. But again, since only the red player played the research action card, they and only they get to do the bonus at the bottom of the card. So it's a very interesting game because not every round, every single phase exists. And it's also a game where you kind of got to get into the heads of the other players and kind of look across the table and say, I need to produce, but I also need to do a production action. While other players I see across the table, I can look over there and see that person may need to do a development action. This person over there may need to do an action where it's going to allow them to put green cards into play. So I need to think about my actions every single turn. Because if I need an action to happen really badly, it behooves me to pick that card and make sure that's the card I'm going to play that turn. But if I need multiple actions on the turn, I want to pick the action that's going to help me the most while looking around the table and see if I think anybody else in the table may pick that secondary action I need, because if they pick that secondary action I need, well, I don't get as efficiently as them. I'm being a much more efficient player because I'm taking more actions every single round, because there's more actions available on the table that are going to be good for my corporation. Now, the interesting thing about Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition is, in a way, it's ever so slightly a cooperative game, because the game is not going to come to an end until all the oceans have been terraformed, the oxygen level is high enough, and the heat on the planet is high enough to support human life. So in a way, the players all working together cooperatively to try to make that happen. But every time players take these actions, such as flipping ocean tiles or raising the oxygen or raising the heat, their terraforming level is going to go up. Your end game victory points can be based on your current terraforming level at the end of the game when the planet is completely habitable by humans, and any cards you manage to play that may give you bonus extra victory points, such as this card we see right here. If this player, the red player, gets this card in play, it's going to give him an extra victory point. Not only on top of that, players are building up an engine that's going to allow them to get different resources, such as the ability to get extra cards, the ability to get discounts on various different things, or even the ability to start producing heat, start producing plants, or even getting greater income. We're going to use all these actions or all these resources during an action phase, which is a third phase. And again, remember, the action phase only happens if at least one player picks it. But during that part, players will spend their resources to make the evolution of the planet happen. But again, you want to be more efficient than all the other players at the table, because while the game comes in when the planet is fully terraformed, again, whoever has the highest terraforming rating and the most amount of victory points from cards they play is be the grand winner of the game. So players are also racing against each other to get the most efficient engine, because the more efficient your engine is, the better you're going to get income and resources, the better you can go about getting towards the end of the game, getting the highest terraforming rating, and being the grand victor of the game. Terraforming Mars adds a few different things and a few interesting wrinkles to the idea of the engine building game, with a couple very cool concepts. One of the very first cool concepts about the game is that any card in your hand, i.e. any project in your hand, is not a project until you manage to spend the resources to put it in play. But every single project card in your hand is also worth money at any time. You can discard any of these cards without actually playing them to gain money. So that's one very interesting thing about the game. An additional interesting thing about the game is the game comes with many corporations, ensuring there's a vast amount of replay to the game. But every one of these corporations plays differently. They all lend themselves to certain strategies. Some of them start with less money but get the income of extra bonus resources. For example, this corporation right here doesn't have a very high starting amount of money, but they have the ability to produce plants. Nice thing about plants is plants raise up oxygen. Plants also create forests. Forests give you extra victory points in the game. So having that corporation as a corporation that you're representing can kind of influence how you're playing the game. Whereas if you were to play this corporation right here, it gives you discounts on certain different cards that may come into the game. And that's the second, or I should say at this point, the third very cool thing about this game. This game comes with a vast amount of cards, well over 200 project cards, and every single player is going to have a hand of about 8 to 10 project cards as they play throughout the game. Their hand level may go up and down, can never be more than 10 cards in their hand, but it's definitely going to go down, especially since the fact that if you're running low on funds, you can always discard a project card to go ahead and gain some money to help you produce some actions during the action phase. So the game has a very interesting aspect to it, because you have to be very efficient with the cards you have in your hand, because it's not about getting cards all the time. It's about being efficient with the cards you have, knowing when a card in your hand is a card that you need to hold on to get into play, or when it's a card you can sacrifice for more money, because that's going to help you get the cards into play that are really going to help you build your engine, help you get your terraforming rating up, and go ahead and win the game. Now, this is just a quick overview of exactly what Terraforming Mars Area Expedition happens to be. But if you want to see a sample gameplay where I'll play a couple of hands of a 2-player game, or if you want to learn how to play the game, see my final review, or again, if you're a Patreon backer, you can see a full solo game with the solo rules. If any of those other videos interest you, check out the other videos in the series. Yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy this video series. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them down in the YouTube comments down below. I'll definitely get to them as quickly as I can. You can also feel free to email me off-the-shelf board game reviews. That's otsbgr@gmail.com. I'll definitely answer your email as quickly as I can. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoy this video series and the content on the channel, think about supporting the channel over on Patreon. Just $1 in the tip jar can help me keep the channel going strong, help keep content constantly coming out to you, and help bringing out more of these games, more of these videos, more tutorials, and more reviews. If you enjoy this video, if you enjoy this video series, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching.